So if you're somebody out there and you're thinking to yourself, going into the holiday season, right? You're a coach, you're a speaker, you're a consultant, and you're just trying to figure out what can you do to where you will be able to have leads exploding? What can you do to where you'll be in a position to where you can generate some extra income? And then even more importantly than that, how can you establish your platform to truly thrive long term? Well, you're in the right place. We have a webinar coming up, and you can go to getpaidwithpodcasting.com. And I'm going to show you how to leverage the art of podcasting ultimately so you can not only be waiting for leads to come through, but you're going to know they're coming through because they're exploding. So you can go to getpaidwithpodcasting.com and you can find out about that webinar. It's happening tonight. Okay. It's happening tonight. Don't miss it. Go ahead, and we're going to go ahead and get into the intro. Welcome to the Your Podcast Mentor Show with Jonathan Jones. Here you will learn how to start, launch, and monetize your podcast. In addition to hearing the latest trends and the latest and greatest things happening in the podcast industry. Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? Let's get this thing going. Let's get this thing going. What's going on, family? It's your podcast mentor, Jonathan Jones, and we are on the Your Podcast Mentor Show. All right. What we focus on here is showing you tips, showing you tricks to help you start, launch, and monetize your podcast. So I'm glad that you're here with me today. I'm glad that you're taking this time out to be here. You could be anywhere else, right? But you're here listening, you're here watching. And before we dive into today's topic, which we're talking about how to get paid with podcasting, right? How to make money from podcasting. Before we go there, I want to share with you just a quick news update. So the New York Times audio is releasing they're releasing a platform to beta testers. Why is this something that's important in the podcast industry? Because right here, people are going to get access to exclusive New York Times Daily, that podcast. They're going to also go deeper with storytelling, journalism. They're going to include the New York Times, the Serial podcast, and the American Life. So now they're going deeper with podcast content that doesn't necessarily fall into the podcast format. All right. So wanted to just share that if you're somebody out there who enjoys the New York Times, if you're somebody who enjoys the Daily, if you're somebody who enjoys tuning into the Serial podcast, then this is something that you want to be aware of because they're changing the game when it comes to audio content. So make sure to check that out. And now we get into today's topic. How to make money podcasting, right? How to make money podcasting. And I wanted to talk about this a little bit today. Let me lower the camera a little bit. Uh-oh. Technical difficulty. Let's get right there. Let's go right here. Okay, perfect. And the reason I want to talk about this today is because I did an interview just this past weekend. It's going to be coming out in January. I'll keep you all updated when that drops. But as we're going through the interview, I started to realize that struggling to generate income or not even accepting a podcast as a business is where I believe why a lot of people end up burning out from podcasting as a whole. Right. So as you may or may not know my story, when I first started podcasting, my first podcast, I put out 275 episodes. And towards the end of that stint, I started to feel a little burnt out. I started to feel like I was struggling to pull topics. I started to feel like I was piecemealing something together. Right. So seeing and thinking about that, over the course of that podcast, I generated $75 directly from that podcast, right? Doing one ad slot for my friend Rabia, because he started a baseball trading company, trading card company. Okay. And then he was like, John, how much for an ad spot? And I was like, I don't know, $75. He said, okay, let's do it. And I said, all right, let's do it. But that was just before I stopped doing the podcast. Now let's talk about you. Okay. If you're in the process to where you haven't started yet, you're in the process to where you're in the launch phase, or you're in the process to where you've put out 10, 15, 20, 30, 200 episodes, I want you to consider a few things. Okay. Consider this. Consider this. Consider you're someone who enjoys coffee. And let's say you start the Coffee Aficionados podcast, right? So you're talking about the history of coffee and you're trying different coffees. You share with people the coffees that you like and you break down different ways that people can grind up the coffee. I want you just to think about all of the opportunities to generate revenue directly and or indirectly from coffee. First things first. Let's say you started to say, I'm going to talk about this coffee online because I enjoy this particular brand of coffee. Let's just say Folgers. I mean, it's just Folgers. So let's say you start talking about Folgers. And let's say you just start talking about the different rows. And then somebody reaches out to you and they say, hey, I have my own coffee company. Do you mind trying my coffee? Do you mind giving me some feedback on what you like, what you enjoyed, what you didn't like about my coffee? You say, sure. The people send in a bag of coffee. You try it online. Then you enjoy it. You share it with your audience. And then now that person lets you know our sales were typically $100 a month. But since being mentioned on your show, now we're making $120 a month. If you're the host, you should say, oh, wow, I helped their business. And it wasn't even necessarily by you sponsoring the show or by them sponsoring the show. It was just by you having a beverage or you having an item, you enjoying the item, and then you make mention of it to your audience. When it comes to getting paid with podcasting and making money with podcasting, let's start there. Think of companies that you legitimately enjoy their products. Like I'm shooting with this Canon EOS Rebel T5i. I enjoy this camera because the durability of it. I enjoy this camera because I can record video. I can snap photos. And then even with this Canon zoom lens, it allows me to do this podcast at a higher level video quality. So maybe I could reach out to Canon and see about a partnership, right? So let's begin. Let's start there. So this is the base level of making money from your podcast. Sharing items that you legitimately enjoy. Sharing items that you would post about if you didn't get paid to post about them anyway. So thinking about that, let's transition to now thinking about doing events, right? Let's say that you are in a small town in Idaho. Okay. I'm not sure of many cities in Idaho, so I'm just going to say Idaho City. Okay. And while you're in Idaho, then you start thinking, I would love to bring together other coffee drinkers, other avid coffee drinkers, coffee connoisseurs. I would love to bring them together in a space to where we can have a conversation and just begin to talk about coffee. So what can you do? You can pitch that to your audience. Hey, family, we're going to Idaho City 2 months from now. Just want to let you know, would you all be interested if we put together an event to where we talked about and discussed different types of coffee? We talked about and discussed our favorite type of coffee. Would you be interested? Put out a poll, right? On Instagram, on Twitter, wherever. See what the response is. And then you can say, okay, let's put together this event. So now you go to Idaho City, you put together an event, and then after you set up that event, Then you let people know it's gonna be $10 for admission, just $10 for the event. So people now are coming to meet you because you're a personality. They're paying you $10 per person. Let's say you have 10 people there. You were going to go to Idaho City anyway. You now made $100, right? Based on, the other logistical type stuff. But all in all, you had people travel to see you and they paid. So events is another way that you can make money from a podcast. And then when you begin to get people together like that, then you can ask that first person who you drank their coffee on your show, and then you said, I'm going to share this with other people. You can ask that person, would they be interested in sponsoring the event? This way they can cover the cost and different things like that. And now their branding for their coffee is getting put all over the place. They benefit because you're going to be in a place with individuals who are enjoying coffee and who enjoy coffee. So then people might be prone to want to purchase some of that coffee, to want to find out more about that coffee. Right? So we talked about just sharing items that you love, sharing items that you use. We talked about events where you're bringing people together. Let's say you decided to do a coffee club to where every month you just sent out a different package of coffee and then allow people to just try it. Every month they're trying a different type of coffee that they wouldn't have been introduced to before. Now, what this does is this builds your network within the coffee community of the businesses, but this also introduces those businesses to a new clientele, especially knowing that these are people who are coffee connoisseurs. These are people who enjoy coffee. Eventually, somebody who gets a bag of a coffee that they haven't tried before, let's call it Bob's Brew, somebody's going to say, I like Bob's Brew. Where's Bob's website? Let me buy some of Bob's Brew. So now everybody in the ecosystem is directly benefiting. Another way that we can make money from podcasting. Identify what your transformation is that you can provide for someone. If it be a client, if it be a company, if it be a corporation. What is the transformation? They meet you and they are 35 pounds overweight. After they work with you, now they've lost those 35 pounds. That's a transformation that many people would love, especially coming into the holiday season or starting a new year or even going into the summer, right? That's a transformation. Let's say somebody just wants to learn how to write a book. They go to my dad, Dr. Fred Jones. He's the creator of Bestseller Overnight. They say, Dr. Fred, I want to write a book. He says, okay, is that all you want to do? And they say, no, I want to write a best-selling book. Dr. Fred says, okay, I can help you. He brings them into the Bestseller Overnight program. He takes them through the Bestseller Overnight program. And then what happens? They now have a best-selling book. Think about what's the transformation that you can create, and then we can package that up as consulting. The other thing is, think about the transformation that we can create on a larger scale. We package that up, and that's speaking, getting paid to speak. I was looking at some research when I did this presentation like a year or two ago, and it said the newbie speaker makes $500 to $2,500. They said the speaker who's a little bit more established, they've written a best-selling book, they've done some media work, they range probably from $3,000 to like that $5K category, right? $3K, $5K, sometimes even ranging a little bit more than that. But you have a transformation that you can help provide someone with But the thing is just, are you going to package it? Are you going to promote it? And then are you going to profit from it? That's the thing. That's the thing. Okay, so far we talked about ultimately sharing about products that you enjoy, right? Putting those out there. We talked about events, creating events so people can come together in a space and then all learn together, grow together, in community together. We talked about a membership, a Coffees Club membership, right? Putting together a membership to where people ultimately can put out a coffee a month, the coffee club, coffee a month. Then we talked about consulting, taking your transformation, packaging it up, promoting it, and then publishing from it. And then the last one I said was public speaking. I'm an avid member. Well, I'm a former member of Toastmasters, right? I went through the ranks in Toastmasters, and Toastmasters taught me the technical side of speaking. But from Toastmasters, then I went and I hired a business coach who taught me just the ability to stand flat-footed and convey a message. Shout out to Coach Kendall Ficklin, my first business coach. My dad was my first book coach, then Kendall was my first business coach. And I got it switched up. Actually, I learned from Kendall first. And then from learning from Kendall, then I went on and then went to Toastmasters. So I had the ability to storytell. I had the ability to connect with audiences, but I just wanted to brush up on the technical side. Why are you saying this, John? How is this relevant? For one, if you're a speaker, aspiring speaker, a coach or consultant, we have the Get Paid with Podcasting webinar, okay? Where I'm going to show you how to explode your leads. I'm going to show you how to establish a platform successfully. And then I'm going to show you how to be able to generate income, even if you have a small audience, right? And that's a lot of people. Oh, John, who's going to listen to me? Who wants to listen to me? Nobody knows me yet. So make sure to register. We have the link in my bio, getpaidwithpodcasting.com. We have the link in the show notes, getpaidwithpodcasting.com. And I want to show you ultimately how you can build your brand on top of the podcast. And the podcast will be where everything runs from. All right, family, we're going to go ahead and get ready to get out of here. If I've added value to you any way, shape, or form, be sure to check out buymeacoffee.com/Jonathan Jones. Buymeacoffee.com/Jonathan Jones. But remember that this podcast is to help you, okay, establish your platform so that you can profit on purpose from your podcast. Peace. God.